From the outside, Nicole Kidman looks like someone who's never struggled a day in her life. Flawless gowns, magazine covers, a voice as soft as velvet, an Oscar in one hand, a Golden Globe in the other. She walks red carpets like they were made for her, unshaken, regal, iconic, the kind of woman the world calls perfect. But what if I told you that Nicole Kidman built that elegance out of heartbreak? That behind the glow of a million flashbulbs was a woman who had been quietly torn apart, over and over again, while the world applauded? Because the truth is, Nicole didn't rise to the top because her life was easy. She rose because she kept walking through the wreckage, through betrayal, through loss, through the kind of emotional silence that would have destroyed anyone else. Hollywood gave her awards, but it also gave her bruises. And what she's endured in private is far more compelling than anything she's done on screen. This is not the story of a starlet who got lucky. This is the story of a girl who had to grow up too fast, of a woman who lost everything, and of a mother who still waits in silence for her children to come home. This is the real Nicole Kidman, exposed, scarred, and stronger than anyone ever realized. When Nicole Kidman stands under the lights, people see perfection, but they don't see what it took to hold herself upright. Because behind every stunning red carpet moment, there is a past full of invisible wounds. Behind the dazzling smile is the memory of a child she never got to hold. Behind the piercing blue eyes is the echo of a goodbye she never got to say. And behind the graceful interviews, the poise, the Hollywood royalty image, is a woman who nearly lost herself in silence. She once held an Oscar in her hands, wearing a custom-made gown, standing at the peak of her career, and still felt empty. "What now?" she whispered to herself backstage, because the applause felt hollow, the lights felt cold, and her heart was still full of questions she couldn't answer. Few people know this, but Nicole didn't just play broken characters on screen. She was broken. She portrayed grief because she had lived it. She portrayed loneliness because she had drowned in it. And when she played a woman trapped in domestic violence, people praised her for being so real, because it was real. She had cried in private places too. She had hidden bruises, not always on her body, but on her soul. The world gave her awards, but rarely asked how she was doing. Everyone wanted the smile, the gown, the quote. No one wanted to see the woman still grieving the loss of children who were alive, but no longer called her mom. And the most painful part? Nicole never asked for sympathy. She just kept showing up, quiet, composed, determined. She let her work speak when she couldn't. She let her roles scream the things she was never allowed to say. Because the truth is, Nicole Kidman has never been the porcelain doll people imagined. She's been the steel hidden beneath the softness, the woman who turned her scars into gold. And her story doesn't start with fame. It starts in a lab in Sydney, with a little girl watching her mother fight for her life, and learning what strength really means. Long before the designer gowns and golden statues, Nicole Kidman was just a girl growing up in the suburbs of Sydney, Australia, surrounded not by celebrity, but by science, books, and quiet curiosity. Her father, Dr. Anthony Kidman, was a respected psychologist and biochemist. He wasn't just brilliant, he was gentle, patient, a man who treated emotions with as much precision as his lab work. Nicole spent afternoons wandering through his research lab, running her fingers along the cool edges of test tubes, pretending she was a scientist. Sometimes she imagined she was a therapist, sometimes she was someone else entirely. That's where her love of performance began, not in drama school, but in make-believe moments between shelves of data and the scent of chemicals. Her mother, Janelle, was just as powerful in a different way. A nurse and feminist activist, she taught Nicole that empathy was not weakness. It was strength, that speaking up mattered, that the world wouldn't give you space. You had to claim it. But life has a way of testing beliefs. At 17, Nicole had just been accepted into the Melbourne College of the Arts. She was excited, hungry to learn the craft of acting. Her dream was finally beginning. Then the phone rang. Her mother had breast cancer. In a single moment, her future was hijacked. The college doors she had just stepped through closed behind her. Nicole left everything, no hesitation. She dropped out of school, moved back home, and took a job as a massage therapist just to help cover the bills. She didn't complain, she didn't collapse, but something inside her shifted. Watching her mother fight through chemo, watching the physical pain and emotional terror etched into every breath, Nicole learned what real strength looked like. Not red carpet strength, not cinematic strength, but the kind that shows up every single day even when your body begs you not to. That year changed her forever. It also gave her a gift, the ability to feel deeply, to notice the invisible pain in others, to carry her own with quiet dignity. Later, when critics would call her performances haunting, they didn't know what they were seeing. They were watching a young girl who had already seen what most people run from: illness, fear, and the possibility of death. Nicole didn't choose acting for fame. She chose it because it was the only place she could put all the emotion that had nowhere else to go. Nicole Kidman didn't walk into Hollywood. She stormed into it, fearless, strategic, and determined to be heard. Her first appearance on screen wasn't glamorous. At just 15, she showed up in a low-budget Australian music video, curly red hair bouncing, blue eyes curious and intelligent. She wasn't what casting agents were used to. She wasn't polished, she wasn't loud, but she stood out. Even then, something in her made people stop and look twice. By 19, she took her biggest leap yet, a bold role in the 1986 film Wind Rider, a romantic comedy with intimate, provocative scenes that raised more than a few eyebrows. Critics called it risky, audiences called it shameless. Nicole, she called it necessary. She knew the game, she wasn't from a rich family, she didn't have industry connections. If she wanted a seat at the table, she had to earn it the hard way. "If I didn't make an impression," she once said, "I might not get another chance." It worked. That performance got people talking, not because of the scenes, but because of her. She didn't shrink, she didn't blush. She owned it. And suddenly casting directors were asking, who is this girl? Where did she come from? Hollywood was finally paying attention. Then came Dead Calm, her breakthrough. A psychological thriller set at sea, where Nicole played a woman trapped with a murderer. No screaming, no melodrama, just pure, silent intensity. One look from her was enough to freeze the blood. Critics raved, and more importantly, one American director took notice, Tony Scott. He cast her in Days of Thunder, her co-star, Tom Cruise. And just like that, Nicole Kidman's real Hollywood story began. But what no one knew was that the role that launched her into global fame would also launch her into the most devastating relationship of her life. When Nicole Kidman married Tom Cruise in 1990, she was just 22, a fresh face in Hollywood, full of idealism, love, and blind trust. He was 28, the biggest movie star in the world, with power, charm, and the press wrapped around his finger. Together, they were instantly crowned the golden couple. They looked untouchable. Their on-screen chemistry in Days of Thunder carried into real life, and within months, the media dubbed Nicole the luckiest woman alive. But, in truth, she was barely more than a girl, and she was stepping into something much bigger than she realized. Nicole once said, "When I loved Tom, I felt protected from everything. I thought it would last forever." But fairy tales in Hollywood rarely survive reality. 3 years into the marriage, she became pregnant for the first time. But instead of joy, the experience nearly killed her. It was an ectopic pregnancy, extremely dangerous, extremely painful. The press, careless as always, called it a miscarriage. The truth was much worse. She not only lost the child, but faced a deep physical and emotional trauma no one talked about. "No one asked how I felt," she later said. "It was like it didn't matter." The silence was deafening. Trying to heal, she and Tom adopted 2 children, Isabella and Connor, and, for a few years, it seemed like life had stabilized. Nicole poured herself into motherhood. She worked, but not to chase fame. She worked to protect the calm she had built. Then, in 2001, everything changed. Out of nowhere, with no conversation, no warning, Tom Cruise served her divorce papers. One moment she was a wife and mother, the next she was alone. Nicole begged him to stay. She asked why. She searched for something to hold on to, but there was nothing. "I didn't understand what was happening," she said. "All I knew was that I had lost everything." And, as if that heartbreak weren't enough, she was pregnant again. But the emotional devastation from the divorce triggered another loss. Her second pregnancy ended in a miscarriage. Her only biological child with Cruise, gone. Imagine that. Being abandoned by the man you loved, losing your children, your home, and your body's last chance to hold on to something real, all at once. Nicole Kidman didn't break publicly. She didn't spiral, but inside, she was hollowed out. The next time she stood on stage, winning her Oscar for The Hours, she held the golden statue with frozen fingers, and all she could think was, now what? After the divorce, Nicole faced something even crueler than heartbreak. She lost her children, not to death, but to distance. Isabella and Connor, the children she had adopted, loved, nurtured, and called her Mom, chose to live with Tom. But this wasn't just a matter of custody. It was a matter of belief. Tom Cruise was deeply involved with the Church of Scientology. Nicole wasn't. In the world of Scientology, those who leave or don't fully belong are often labeled suppressive. Quietly over time, Nicole was pushed out, not through a courtroom battle, but through silence. She never said a word to the press, never tried to explain, she never fought back publicly. But the world noticed. She stopped appearing with her children. They stopped mentioning her. And when Nicole stood on stage accepting her Emmy in 2017, she thanked her 2 biological daughters, Sunday and Faith, but didn't say a word about Isabella or Connor. People were quick to criticize, but they didn't understand the pain behind that silence. Years later, when asked directly, all she said was this: "I'm very private about all that, but I'm 150% certain I would give up my life for my children." She didn't say, "We talk all the time." She didn't say, "We've reconnected," because they hadn't. Nicole Kidman loved them still, but from afar, from the sidelines, watching, hoping, hurting. It's a special kind of agony, to be a mother and still feel like you're not allowed to say you are, to carry memories that no longer match your present, to love children who no longer claim you back. Nicole once asked herself, am I still a mother if the children I gave birth to in my heart have chosen to forget me? The answer, for her, was yes, because real motherhood isn't about control. It's not about names or appearances. It's about love that stays, quietly, patiently, even when the world has moved on. And somehow, from the ashes of all that pain, Nicole Kidman rose again. By 2005, Nicole Kidman had nearly stopped believing in love. Her divorce had shattered her trust. The loss of her children had scarred her soul. Fame no longer felt like a reward. It felt like a reminder of what she couldn't keep. And in a city that feeds on illusion, she had grown far too used to being alone. Then she met Keith Urban. It wasn't a whirlwind romance. It wasn't some scripted Hollywood plot. It was quiet, unexpected, human. They met at a small event for Australians in Los Angeles. She saw him from across the room, tall, handsome, with a voice like honey and eyes that looked like they'd seen pain. She didn't think he'd notice her. She didn't expect anything. But fate did. Keith was battling his own demons, addiction, depression, the darkness that fame sometimes brings. Nicole later revealed that when she first called him, he didn't answer. The second time, still no response. She almost gave up, but something told her to try one more time. On the third call, he picked up. And just like that, two broken people found something whole. They married in 2006 in a quiet ceremony in Sydney. No media frenzy, no spectacle, just a vow between two people who had known darkness and wanted light. And only months after the wedding, Keith checked into rehab. Most people would have walked away. Nicole stayed. She held his hand through it. She faced his addiction not as a threat, but as proof that he needed someone to stand by him. Keith later said, without hesitation, "If it weren't for Nicole, I don't know if I would have survived." Their love wasn't about escape, it was about healing. Together, they rebuilt each other, and when their daughter Sunday Rose was born in 2008, Nicole didn't just become a mother again, she became whole. Carrying Sunday was a miracle, she once said. After losing so much, she felt like a new beginning. In 2010, they welcomed their second daughter, Faith Margaret, via surrogate. Nicole never made a distinction, biological, adopted, or carried by another woman. Love is love. They are all my children. This time, motherhood wasn't shadowed by fear. It was sacred, redemptive. And Keith? He never once asked her to give up her career. Instead, he flew across continents to be there on her first day of filming, gave notes on scripts, and held her hand when the lights went out. In a world obsessed with flashy headlines, Nicole and Keith built something quietly profound. And finally, after decades of pain, she knew what real love felt like. Not possession, but partnership. Nicole Kidman could have faded away after heartbreak. She could have slowed down, retreated, lived quietly in the shadows of her past. Instead, she came back fiercer, deeper, and more powerful than ever before. In 2003, just 2 years after her divorce, she won the Oscar for The Hours, playing Virginia Woolf, a woman on the edge of genius and despair. It was raw, transformative, and nothing like the polished, glamorous roles Hollywood once pushed her toward. With that role, Nicole shattered the idea that she was just a pretty face. She had arrived, not as a starlet, but as an artist. Then came Big Little Lies, a role that didn't just win her an Emmy and a Golden Globe, it changed the entire conversation about women, abuse, and survival on television. Her portrayal of Celeste Wright, a mother enduring domestic violence behind closed doors, felt too real because for Nicole, it was real. She once said the scenes left her emotionally bruised, not because they were scripted, but because they pulled from something unspoken in her own life. And that's the difference with Nicole. She doesn't take roles to be adored, she takes them to tell the truth. Beyond the screen, she used her platform to become a fierce advocate, speaking out against domestic abuse, championing women's rights, and calling out Hollywood's obsession with youth. Why is it, she asked, that a 50-year-old man can still play a romantic lead, but a 50-year-old woman is only offered mother roles? I refuse to accept that. And she didn't. She starred in The Beguiled, Aquaman, Being the Ricardos, and 4 films at Cannes in the same year, an unprecedented feat for an actress over 50. Critics now call her the only woman who can be both goddess and mortal in the same frame. But Nicole doesn't care about the praise anymore. What matters to her is her voice, her legacy, her daughters watching her fight with grace. She once said, "I don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. I just want to live in a way that makes my children proud." And that's exactly what she's done. By Hollywood standards, Nicole Kidman should have faded. She should have become a footnote, another actress with early fame and a tragic love story, quietly replaced by younger faces and louder personalities. But Nicole didn't fade, she evolved. Over time, she became something far more powerful than a leading lady. She became a force. While others scrambled to stay relevant through controversies, shock value, or reinvention, Nicole never needed noise. She created gravity, a presence so grounded and refined, it silenced everything around her. And what's even more extraordinary, she didn't do it by pretending to be invincible. She did it by revealing her humanity, slowly, subtly, piece by piece. There's a reason directors continue to cast her in roles that demand more than beauty, because Nicole doesn't just act, she channels. She disappears into women who are fractured, flawed, and painfully real. Women who stay in toxic marriages, women who cry in secret, women who love so deeply they lose themselves, women who've been hurt and still choose to love again. In The Hours, she wasn't playing Virginia Woolf, she was Virginia, brilliant, depressed, quietly unraveling. In Big Little Lies, she wasn't performing pain, she was revisiting it. In Lion, she gave voice to the agony of adoptive mothers who fear they'll never be enough. And in Being the Ricardos, she redefined what it means to portray a cultural icon, not with imitation, but with internal fire. She's not chasing roles anymore, she's curating them, choosing parts that say something about the world, about womanhood, about survival. And then there's the other side of her legacy, advocacy. Nicole has become one of the most powerful voices for women in entertainment. She speaks against ageism, challenges gender double standards, and demands that female characters be written with the same nuance and weight as their male counterparts. She's not asking for favors, she's asking for fairness. "I refuse to disappear quietly just because I've reached a certain age," she once said. "There's still so much I haven't done, so many stories I want to tell." And she's telling them, on her terms. She headlined 4 major projects at the Cannes Film Festival in a single year, something no woman over 50 had ever done. She starred in The Northman, Expats, and upcoming films that continue pushing the boundaries of what women in film are allowed to be. She's played mothers, monsters, lovers, survivors, and rulers. And with each role, she's sending a message. I'm still here. I never left. Because for Nicole Kidman, staying isn't just about career longevity. It's about claiming space. It's about being visible for all the women who feel like they've been forgotten once they stop being someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's prize. She is not afraid of wrinkles. She is not afraid of failure. She is not afraid of being misunderstood. She's already lived through worse. There are stars who shine for a moment. And then there are stars who become constellations, guiding others through darkness. Nicole Kidman is the latter. Her story isn't a linear rise to the top. It's a jagged climb, full of heartbreaks and rebirths. A journey defined not by luck or timing, but by sheer emotional endurance. She has lost. She has grieved. She has stood in front of cameras while her heart broke in private. She has been left behind by lovers, erased by her own children, dismissed by the industry, and still she remained. Not because she had something to prove, but because she had something to say. Nicole is not just an actress, she's a living embodiment of the truth so many women are forced to swallow, that sometimes no one will save you, that sometimes you won't get closure, that love can vanish, family can fail you, and life will not apologize for what it takes. And still, you rise. You hold your head high, you grieve quietly, you love again, carefully, and you build a new life from the pieces of the one that broke. Nicole once said she wants her daughters to grow up knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable, that strength isn't about never falling, it's about having the courage to stand back up. If that's not the definition of a modern legend, what is? She may one day step away from the spotlight, she may stop accepting awards, the flashbulbs may fade, but the impact, that will last forever. Because Nicole Kidman has already done what most people spend their whole lives trying to do. She's turned pain into purpose and made the world listen. So, if you've ever been told you're too fragile, too emotional, too complicated, remember Nicole. If you've ever felt like time is running out, like your best years are behind you, look at Nicole. And if you've ever wondered whether you'll be okay after the worst thing that's ever happened to you, know this: Nicole Kidman was not destroyed by the storm. She became the storm.